previous chapter, when he begins to destroy an old iteration of his Iron Man armor, Tony Stark discovers data about an encounter with the dangerous Dr. Doom that he cannot remember. Some time ago, Doom came to Iron Man, requesting his aid and telling the armored Avenger that millions of lives hung in the balance. Acknowledging that Tony Stark's lackey had proven useful against mystic dangers in the past, Doom took a reluctant Iron Man with him as he journeyed to the Nether Realm. Little did Stark know that Doom had arranged a trade with Mephisto. In exchange for an item that Doom desired, the demon would get to keep Iron Man, armed with only his armor and an ineffective transmitter that would otherwise be a quick pass back to our world. Iron Man is faced with Mephisto and the hordes of hell.
I was in hell, so it wasn't until later that I learned what had occurred in Dr. Doom's Latverian laboratory.
Morgana Le Fay, as always, my dear, you look utterly ravishing. But could that be a note of pique I detect in your manner?
Legacy of Doom, Chapter 2, Night of the Living Dad.
Peek? Peek? Release me immediately, spawn of a serpent, or I shall turn your eyeballs to blisters, and burst them.
You'll do nothing of the sort. I designed that mystic cage myself. Its walls can counter any incantation you're currently capable of constructing. So, I suggest you channel your irritation into more useful purposes. After all, Morgana, you did bring this upon yourself, or don't you remember the bargain we made in your spell-guarded exile in the land of Gore? I agreed to aid in the attack on your brother, King Arthur, in exchange for arcane knowledge. But when Iron Man joined the fray, and the tide of battle turned, you fled to an unknown dimension, taking with you your most precious talisman, a shard from the blade of the enchanted sword, Excalibur. It required months of study, and many journeys to the shadowed corners of existence, but at last I learned your whereabouts. Mephisto had granted you sanctuary in his fiery realm in trade for the Excalibur shard, and there you remained, until I made the Dark Lord a better offer. Now he has Iron Man, and I have the shard, as well as you to help cast a spell that only one with Pendragon blood can accomplish.
You expect me to help you? Are you a dreamer, or merely a fool?
You refuse. Pity. Then I suppose there's nothing to do but return you to Mephisto, though not as a guest this time, but a possession.
Possess? You're evil, Doom, truly evil. I like that.
But at the time I was elsewhere, and had other problems. Mephisto's minions clung like slime on a sewer wall. I couldn't pull them loose, rip them from my armor. So, I hoped that speed, spin and hard-edged architecture might scrape them off.
Impressive. Futile, but impressive.
The protoplasmic imps were endless, unstoppable. Repulsor blasts merely scattered them. I needed another weapon, and since the old adage about fighting fire with fire seemed appropriate to the location.
Impressive or not, this is becoming tedious, but perhaps interest could be added by making the conflict a bit more personal.
I was wrong. The imps did stop, stood staring for a heartbeat, then whirled and fled like toddlers from the boogeyman. I had no idea why, until a massive shadow slid over me from behind. I turned, and in the searing heat of hell, felt my blood turn to ice. Why, you? His form had changed, perhaps to more closely mirror the true nature of his soul, but he was still recognizable as Howard Stark, my unrepentant and long-dead father.
Losing again, boy? You always were a wimp. Never had the stones to do what had to be done.
I always tried to do what was right.
My point. Exactly. See, I can make armor too. Brilliance isn't enough. You'll never reach your true potential worrying about consequences. You're weak. Nothing but a fancy boy. You're no son of mine.
I'd heard it before, but the pain was still enough to distract me from the physical threat at hand. Instinct told me to fight back, trade hurt for hurt, but still, he was my father.
Coward.
His armor mimicked mine, right hand shooting hellfire, repulsors, left generating a reverse magnetism force field. There would be no escape.
You were my greatest shame, but I'll make a man of you yet. I'll beat it into you, you prancing gigolo. Every single day. For eternity.
Now that's more like it. Friday night fights, and on a Tuesday. Godlike power does have its perks. The only thing missing is a tasty snack, and I can just ease back and enjoy the show. No butter.
I couldn't bring myself to fire repulsors at full strength. His force field held. Still, his most powerful weapons were words.
Weak. Namby-pamby. Vacillating when you should act. You always were a disappointment, both to me and to your mother.
No, that's one lie. I'll never believe. She loved me, loved us both, unconditionally. All that's good in me, all you call weakness, the compassion, the caring, everything decent, I learned from her, and that gives me the will, the need, the strength, to ultimately do whatever's necessary.
I've altered the nature of your cage so that you may cast this single spell. Attempting anything else would be ill-advised.
You needn't worry. I have accepted my lot. Now let us be done with this.
It worked. The Excalibur shard fused with my armor. We are one.
I've done what you asked. Now return me to Mephisto's keep and as a visitor, mine.
Of course. I'll be delighted to send you back. But remember, my dear, you broke our previous bargain. And no one betrays Victor Von Doom with impunity. No one.
What? This room? The spell-sealed chamber in Gore? I'm back in the time of Arthur, and without the sword shard to barter my escape, I've merely traded one prison for another.
The demon's words had finally worked against him. In attempting to play on my insecurities, he had resurrected the one truth that could counter his lies, so that as I removed the Ice-Freon capsule from my gauntlet, and smashed it against that charging abomination, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. You're no father of mine.
Huh. Didn't see that coming.
You can't kill something already dead. I'd be telling myself that for a long time, but at the moment, other concerns had arisen. Without Mephisto's monster to intimidate them, the imps were heading back to work. I knew I couldn't defeat them with raw power, but by then I'd realized I had magic of my own, technology. My metal shell was already pitted with shallow craters. Whatever the imps were made of was corrosive beyond science, but survival could still depend on armor, if not mine, then Howard's. He'd copied my inventions, in an attempt to mock me, but that misguided insult might yet work in my favor. I'd created those mechanisms, I understood them, and if I could reroute the wiring, expand the field generation protocol, I just might be able to buy myself a chance. The reprieve was temporary, but I had another race up my sleeve. The remote trigger Doom had given me to activate his time platform's retrieval command. It had failed because I lacked the catalyst Doom included in his own armor. But if I could duplicate that circuit's function, it was a long shot, and a growing darkness inside the force bubble told me I didn't have much time. My sensors scanned the trigger, offered a range of possible frequencies, even as the imp's acidic scan worked to disrupt the repulsor field. I clipped wires, I soldered, feverishly hoping Howard's armor could provide the energy boost the trigger required, all the while ignoring the hiss and spatter of the imp's ongoing assault. And then, they were through. There was no time to test the frequency I'd chosen. There was only time for the simple push of a button.
I hate when that happens. Really.
Ah, the proverbial bad penny returns. I rather assumed you might.
Then you know what's next.
Indeed, though I'd wager a princely sum that you don't.
New outfit, and a sword, forgive the movie cliché, but ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster, kid.
No.
My armor could withstand bullets, artillery shells, but to be breached by a blade?
This is no ordinary weapon, lackey. It is Excalibur, Merlin made, and forged through magic, making whoever wields it invincible. So come forth, Avenger. It is time to put our lingering dispute to an end.
Next, Iron Man vs. Doctor Doom.